Thanks everyone and welcome. Really pleased to introduce this next performance. It's a really exciting project. Today we have Sylvia Gray, pianist and composer. Sylvia is a member of our history faculty, but she's in addition an incredible pianist and composer. And you will hear these the poetry of these Northwest poets, our guests here, set to song and performed in conjunction and helped by soprano Christy Anne Hamilton Ford. There, I took without further ado, here they are. Thank you.
Thank you all for coming, and I want to thank the Art Beat Committee for taking a risk with us. This is a little experimental, you know, we've never done it before. I also want to thank the poets for giving me permission to try my hand at writing to their poetry, writing music. That could be a little scary. I was worried when I played it for them, various ones, but they all seemed to be okay with it, so good. The first person besides Christy, Tim Barnes, he teaches English here. You might want to take his classes. Paula Lowden, who is my massage therapist par excellence. I highly recommend her. She's also, among other things meaning being a poet, she also is a student at PCC right now because she came back to do some prereqs to get her master's. So she was already here this morning. Michael McDowell also teaches creative writing and English here. Cherry Britton is my neighbor and friend. I should have said Paula's my neighbor too. Cherry Britton, I bet you've never met anybody that makes signs for a living, but she says designs, like the women's, the men's, that kind of thing. So you can talk to her about that later. And Barbara Drake, well-known local poet. All of these people come from this area. And I'm a great believer in using what's at hand. And I think there's a lot of talent here. Music and word have a long history of being set together. Think about the Iliad and the Odyssey. I'm sure you've all heard of those. We think of them as written, as literature. That's where you learn about them. But actually, they were songs. They were songs that were performed and sung for hundreds of years before it was written down. That's why we have it. More recently, and this is the tradition I'm writing in, early 1800s, we have Schubert, who wrote art songs, or Lied, and this is the classical tradition I'm working in, but my own inspiration came from the fact that Christy, who is my niece, by the way, and I am her aunt, conversely, we did some presentations on Amy Beach and Fanny Mendelssohn, both women composers, and they both wrote a lot of songs. Two famous poets. I mean, Fanny herself knew Heinrich Heine, she knew Goethe, and she wrote to their poetry. They were happy to have her do that. So that's what I'm doing. The way I feel about this is I'm just highlighting what's already there. If it wasn't there, the music wouldn't be there either. So with no further ado, Tim is going to read his poem, and then we're going to perform it.
This is Spoons, an appreciation. Ah, the romance of spoons, their goodness, how they fit together, how they lie together hip to hip, spooning comfortably in that slender bed, the drawer. I believe in spoons, their essential good nature. They are the gentlest of utensils. Knives cut, forks jab, but spoons cradle. The knife slices meat, the fork skewers it, but the spoon is oval and holds sips. It is the utensil of moderation, of cure, spoonfuls of medicine, spoons full of care. A spoon will never hurt you, never jab nor cut you. There is no blood in the history of the spoon. Spoons are the sexiest of the utensils, feminine and rounded, all curve and camber. Knives are phallic, and forks are aggressive and toothy, but spoons are the shapes of breasts and buttocks. The knife is to pierce, to fork is to branch out, but to spoon is to make love, cuddle together. The gentle spoon, to be spoon-fed like a child. Spoons are the utensils of babies. The spoon conserves, contains, mothers.
I'll just tell you a few of the ideas I had when I'm writing a few of these. In the case of this, my inspiration was the idea of parallel thirds. They go together. And so that's one of the things I used when I wrote this piece. You could sit.
This poem came from a dream that I had, and it speaks to the longing of hearing to hear a voice that's been lost. In those dreams, the angle of light falls from the moon. I'm in a room lit by shadows, alone with your voice. And that is all I want in those dreams.
All of these poets have written a number of different kinds of poetry, but I was drawn to certain kinds for each poet. In the case of Paula's, I was drawn to some of her shorter poems that have just a little nugget of a thought. This song, the way I treated this, my idea was I wrote for the piano something that's a little out of kilter harmonically, but that's actually in the left hand and the right hand. It's all very traditional, and so is the voice part. It's very traditional, but you put the two together, and I'm just thinking of a dream state, and then the thoughts come out.
This poem is a prayer, and it's a prayer of protection. Every parent wants to keep their child protected from life, but we can't. It's called Prayer for My Daughter's First Encounter with a Death. Let it be small enough. The little rodent spinning the wheel in the room next door. Her hands large enough to hold the stillness and the dimming light dispelled from a coat of fur. Small enough for her to explain a fair God, the deaths of old age or the dangers of burying oneself too deep in wood shavings. Small enough for the world to make sense long enough for the death she cannot explain.
Spinning the wheel. her to explain a fair God. The deaths of old age, or the dangers of burying oneself too deep in wood shavings. Small enough for the world to make sense, long enough for the death she cannot explain.
This poem was one of the poems I've written in trying to reconcile the loss of my mother when I was a child, and I grew up in a religion that supported the idea of heaven. A revision on heaven. When the sky claims heaven, it is motherless. For mothers who have gone to heaven are on the earth in the rooms of their children, sitting in the dark, listening to their voices, and whispering back from half-open doors, whispering back how near we are to heaven.
Sitting in the dark, listening to their voices, and whispering back through half-opened doors.
The first poem that I'll read is entitled The Passionate Shepherd to His Love. It's my updated Pacific Northwest version of a poem by the same title by one of Shakespeare's contemporaries, Christopher Marlowe. Come hike with me and be my love, and you will know the oxbow trails, waterproof, windproof, and breathable. For I have bought you a Gore-Tex parka of 1,000 threads per inch. They susurrate like wind in Sitka spruce. A drawcord waist and ripstop fabric and easy opening underarm vents. If these pleasures may thee move, come hike with me and be my love. Who has patience has all things. L.L. Bean ships the 17th. Till then, live with me, and I will be your waterproof, windproof, whispering love.
Come hike with me and be my love, and you will know the oxbow trails, waterproof, windproof, and breathable. Waterproof, windproof, and breathable. For I have bought you a Gore-Tex parka of 1,000 threads per inch. They susurrate like the wind in the Sitka spruce. A drawcord waist and a ripstop fabric and easy opening underarm vents. If these pleasures may thee move, come and be my love. Who has patience has all things. L.L. Bean ships on the 17th. Till then, live with me, and I will be your waterproof, windproof, and whispering love.
This poem is entitled Coastal Forest Mosquitoes. It's a kind of story of hiking with my children at the coast and getting huge insect bites that kind of bulged out all over our bodies. Coastal forest mosquitoes. On our arms and legs, constellations form, unique as freckle patterns, each bite our donation of blood to the next generation of larvae. On the Baker Bay Trail, the bites multiply as fast as we pull the red huckleberries into our metal cups. My daughter wears horns on her forehead, 2 rounded buttes rising east and west. At McKinsey Head, mosquitoes as big as Anna's hummingbirds hover by neck and cheek and hand. My son has itched and scratched and rubbed his legs into ranges of red-cratered volcanoes. So we enter the landscape, leaving our blood living in others, our human cells flying past Sitka and Salmonberry to places we'd never go. At evening on the porch, as we count and compare our new coins of raised flesh, mosquitoes wing from the wax myrtles and pines to our waiting arms and legs.
This is the most experimental of all of our pieces today because we've never tried it with the mosquitoes yet. I asked a couple of friends to come up here and be mosquitoes while Christy sings. I'll say something else. Let me just tell you who these are. This is Gerson Robboy. He goes by Uncle Yasha and is a great performer with accordion and monologues that he writes himself. He's going to do one on the 22nd of May evening. Vertigala Wine and show it? Okay. And this is my friend Donann. She used to be my Latin teacher, then I was her piano teacher, and we're just friends now. Okay, and this song, what I did was I stuff all those words which are not in a nice little format into nice little format. So there's a lot of words for Christy to sing. So.
Constellations form unique as freckle patterns, each bite our donation of blood to the next generation of larvae. On the Baker Bay Trail, the bites multiply as fast as we pull the red huckleberries into our metal cups. My daughter wears horns on her forehead, two rounded buttes rising east and west. At Mackenzie Head, mosquitoes as big as Anna's hummingbirds cover by neck and cheek and hand. My son has itched and scratched and rubbed his legs into ranges of red cratered volcanoes. So we enter the landscape, leaving our blood, living in others. Our human cells flying past Sitka and Salmon River to places we never go. At evening on the porch, as we count and compare our new coins of raised flesh, mosquitoes wing from wax myrtles and pines to our waiting arms and legs.
Thank you. The Art Beat posters, I didn't pay anything for them. They were free to me, but anyway. And there's one for the rest of you today, too. They're really great. You've got to admit that was a little original.
The last poem I'll read is based on the idea that, well, my father, shortly before he died, told me the story of my conception. My mother used to take the kids to the beach for the summer, to our beach house, and my father would drive down. He hated the beach. He would drive down on weekends and then go back to Portland. So here's the story. It's entitled Sand in the Sheets. My father had no use for the beach. He complained of sand in his shoes, of overcast and fog and run-down houses, and at night of sand between the sheets. He liked the beach best with sun on his back, looking down the fairway of his imagination from a golf course tee in summertime Portland with a wood in hand and sand confined to traps. Yet most Fridays each summer he'd drive 5 hours on single-lane highways of slow-moving cars through mountains and tidal plains and onto the ferry to join his wife and kids for 2 days and nights. With his wife, he walked the beach and ate sand in his food. And while my siblings slept in adjacent beds, quietly conceived me in the beach house attic, despite sand in the sheets and the fog.
My father had no use for the beach. He complained of sand in his shoes, of overcast and fog and run-down houses, and at night of sand in the sheets. He liked the beach best with sun on his back, looking down the fairway of his imagination from a golf course tee in summertime Portland, with a wood in hand and sand confined to traps. Yet most Fridays each summer he'd drive 5 hours on single-lane highways of slow-moving cars, through mountains and tidal plains and on to the ferry, to join his wife and kids for 2 days and nights. With his wife he walked the beach and ate sand in his food, and while my siblings slept in adjacent beds, quietly conceived me in the beach house attic, despite sand in the sheets and the fog.
You can see I was drawn to Michael's playful poems. Now we're going to get to some sadder poems. And I've been a little more experimental with the harmonics, especially in this next piece.
This poem is The Fall. I fell out of marriage as baby birds fall, silently and with wonder, as maple spinners fall, dizzy with floating, as last leaves fall, clinging, drifting, shattering, as snowflakes fall, melting on impact.
I did with this piece, I wrote the accompaniment, not the song part, but the accompaniment as a palindrome, and I thought I was being really creative until I heard Brian Johansson talk on Monday about one of the pieces he'd written was a palindrome, and I'm like, you know, a palindrome where you go one way, like Anna is a palindrome, A-N-N-A, you can spell it either way, so that's the way I wrote the accompaniment. But anyway, I like it.
what I miss. There is nothing I do not miss. Nothing in your eyes, nothing in your lips. There was a day when I said I do not miss you, but it wasn't true. How you never looked at me, and then you did, long and full of disbelief. There is a way you hold your mouth I can't forget, your full lips anchored and caught, your fathomless eyes, your even, perfect teeth.
Song has brought tears to my eyes, and I wrote it. Well, I didn't write the words, though. Okay, Barbara, I think her poetry will speak for itself.
My poems are, I think, genuinely pastoral. Since 22 years ago, my husband and I moved out to Yamhill County and have a farm there where we have raised sheep. And the best part of raising sheep is when you have lambs. Every year when they are 2 or 3 weeks old, the lambs begin to gambol as if no other lambs had ever gambled, leaping in the air with a joyful twitch, kicking their legs and running in a little herd back and forth, as if they believe they have invented gambling. And every year they discover the 2-foot bowl growing from the side of the oak tree's trunk like a woody wart. They climb on it, pushing one another off, as if they had invented pushing off. And every year I call to my husband, "Look at the lambs, they're playing King of the Hill," laughing as if I'd never before seen them do such a thing.
When they are 2 or 3 weeks old, the lambs begin to gamble, as if no other lambs had ever gambled. joyful twitch. Kicking their legs and running in a little herd, back and forth, exhilarated. As if they believed they had invented gambling. And every year they discover the 2-foot pole growing from the side of the oak tree's trunk like a woody wart. They climb on it, pushing one another off. As if they had invented it, pushing off. And every year I call to my husband. Look at the lambs, they're playing king of the hill. And I laugh as if I'd never before seen them do such a thing.
The owl. The owl swiveled its head and looked at me from the shelf inside the cabin in the light of my flashlight. A small owl from the woods had come in the window while I was gone. I grabbed a down-filled jacket and cast it around the bird's body, picking it up and carrying it out to the porch. It didn't struggle or try to bite me. I could feel how light it was, the down of its small bony body and its hot featheredness. I could feel the swiveling of its head and the beating of its owl's heart. Then I tossed it up in a motion that seemed to go right to my toes. I felt I could fly from the porch as the owl took off, its wings spreading into something large as an overcoat, pulling me out of myself so I could fly for a moment in the dark.
The owl swiveled its head and looked at me from the shelf inside the cabin in the light of my flashlight. A small owl from the wood had come in the window while I was gone. I grabbed a down-filled jacket and cast it around the bird's body, picking it up and carrying it out to the porch. It didn't struggle or try to bite me. I could feel how light it was, the down of its small bony body, and its hot featheredness. I could feel the swiveling of its head and the beating of its owl's heart.
This is a poem inspired by apples, and I'm really curious to hear the music. I haven't heard what the music is for this one, and it's a very thin little poem of little pieces. So let's see, Pommes. An apple will be a friend at all times. Take an apple to lunch. There are stories to be read in apples. The red cheek of an apple will warm you when snow falls. The juice of green apple will cleanse your skin of impurities. Slices of tart apple will close the eyes of the dead. Sleeping on apples, you will dream of one who loves you. Apples I have known and loved sounds like a bestseller. To cure melancholy, suck on the bruises of apples. When the devil comes to get you, hide in an apple tree. My apple is your apple. Half an apple is better than none. There is a little apple in everyone.
Just tell you what I've done with this. Yeah, that's right, Barbara hasn't heard it. Well, number one, I wrote it in the key of A because A is for apple. And what I did was I made just, I see my part as sort of just a backdrop, but I do it in every 5 measures. I have a repeat in the bass. It sort of goes like, keeps going around, keeps going around. I make a few little adjustments in the right hand, the top part of the score, just to adjust to the tune that I've written. You think that worked? Oh, good. You know, it's experimental. I hadn't met Barbara until this very day. So, yeah. So, I just want to say thank you all for coming. I have a feeling there are some more poets out there that might want to send me their poetry along with permission to write to it. I don't promise anything, you know. I have to have an idea, but I'm very open to this. I'm never going to quit doing it now that I've started. Okay, so I just want to thank all the poets for participating. I just think it was really interesting for me to hear it read, too.